So I don't know how many of you guys subscribe to Flashwing, but if you don't, check it out. I'll put a link either in the comments or up here. It's good. He's a Phoenix vlogger, so another Arizona vlogger. And he talks about his, I don't know, I guess we'll say misadventures in online dating. And it was mentioned on one of my comments to one of his videos that, you know, I'm pretty sure everybody's had those really horrible dates that just don't go anywhere near how you'd expect them to go. And I thought, you know, hey, that might be something fun to talk about. I have one really bad date that I went on that was, I don't know, it's pretty entertaining. So it's back when I was living in Lake Havasu. And Lake Havasu is a tiny little town. But I'm in a store and I see this girl at the register, and normally, you know, I mean, girls at registers are always nice because they have to be, it's their job, so you usually don't hit on them. But, you know, she was really cute, and I figured, what the hell? So I asked her out, and she said yes. Sorry, I'm chewing on a mint, if it sounds like I have some sort of speech impediment. But I asked her out, and she said yes. So we decided to meet up on Halloween. And I figured, you know, dinner, and then a friend of mine was having what he said was going to be an epically awesome, amazing Halloween party. So I figured that'll be fun, you know, real low stress, hang out, have fun, shoot the shit, party, you know. So I pick her up, I take her to probably one of the nicer restaurants in town. I didn't go crazy, but it's a good restaurant. And dinner goes okay, you know, it was a little awkward when I first picked her up, but then we kind of got into the flow of chatting. But the first big red flag of the night was that, you know, I was asking her questions so that she could talk about herself, and you know, usually when you do that, people kind of ask you some questions back because they want to learn a little bit about you. But my first red flag should be that she never asked me any questions back at all. And I guess that should be a pretty quick sign that it's either not going to be a good date, or this person is pretty self-absorbed, or what have you. I even mentioned, you know, I asked if she grew up in Havasu, and she said she didn't. And I said, oh yeah, you know, I'm not from here either, I moved here. And I said, actually, I just moved out here from Hawaii, so it's a little bit of a difference. And now 99% of the people, when you say you moved from Hawaii, their first response is, holy crap, you lived in Hawaii, and why did you move to Arizona? You know, and it usually gets some little conversations going, but nothing at all. She was just like, oh. So that should have been the first sign. So we head off after dinner to my friend's party, and the party's dead. There's like 5 people there. It's pretty bad. So we're hanging out. I mean, we're still having a little bit of fun. We're all playing beer pong, you know, as you do. And her and I both go outside for a smoke, and almost at the same time, we're both like, hey, this party is really kind of lame. And she's like, you want to get out of here? I'm like, absolutely. Where do you want to go? And she said, well, let's go to this bar. And I can't remember the name of it, but it's like the bar in Havasu that everyone hangs out to. So we go to this bar, and the second warning flag of the night was we walk in the bar, and everybody knows her. Everybody. Bartenders, the barflies hanging out there, you know, even like the 60-year-old creepy barflies, everybody knows her. So that should have been a little bit of a uh-oh. But, you know, we hang out. Again, it's really low stress. I'm not going to push real hard. We're just hanging out, you know, and of course I'm buying drinks because that's what I do. And everything's okay. Chatting, she's introducing me to my friends. Nothing really extravagant. I'm like, you know, this could go either way. You know, either we'll end up hitting it off, or, you know, and we'll have a couple more dates, or this will just be nothing. But about, I don't know, halfway through the night, she introduces me to this friend of hers, a guy. And, you know, I'm not going to judge. I don't care. Girls can have guy friends. And I'm like, whatever. You know, he's your typical Havasu guy. So about, I don't know, a little while after that, I noticed that the only time she really comes by, you know, because there's some people I know that I'm talking to and stuff like that. So we're both kind of doing our own thing, but still kind of like checking in on each other type thing. And I noticed that, you know, she'd come by when she was out of a drink, and I'm like, all right, you know, I don't mind buying you some drinks when we're hanging out together, but if I'm just buying you drinks just to buy you drinks, that's, you know, eh. So I switched to draft beer because it's a hell of a lot cheaper, and I start noticing that the beers are ending up in her friend's hand. So I'm like, all right, well, that's enough of that. Like, no more drinks. I'm tapped out on that. I'm not buying drinks for this dude. And now it's about, you know, getting close to 2 o'clock when the bar's closed. So she comes over, and she's like, hey, you know, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, oh, you're still giving me a ride home, right? And I'm like, well, yeah, of course. You know, I took you out. I'm not going to leave you. And she's like, oh, cool. She's like, do you mind giving my friend a ride home with me? And I'm like, at this point, it doesn't matter. I mean, I've got to go that way anyways. So I'm like, whatever. I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? So we all leave, her, me, and douchebag. So he gets in. He's like, oh, man, your truck's really nice. I'm like, yeah, you know, I keep my things in good shape. We roll on, and I stop to pick up some smokes because, of course, she had bummed all of my cigarettes off of me. And he follows me in. I take my keys. He follows me into the gas station. And we get inside, convenience store, and he's like, hey, man, you mind buying me some beer? I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? I'm dropping her and you off at her house. I took her out, and you're f***ing asking me to get you beer? Are you out of your mind? And he's like, oh, it's cool. And he pulls a bunch of money out of his pocket. And I'm like, really? Really? I'm like, you're lucky I don't just leave you f***ing stranded here. And he's like, oh, it's cool, it's cool. I'm like, no, it's really not. And I walk out. I'm like, get the fucking truck so we can leave. So he gets his beer, gets in the truck. I drop him off. That's the end of that. I figure I'm never going to hear from this girl again. I go back to the party. Everyone's drunk and, like, passed out. I tell them the story of what happens, and it's hilarious, of course. And it is. It's funny. At the time, I was a little pissed, but it was funny. That would make it a pretty bad date. You know, that's definitely the worst one I've ever been on. But what makes it even better is a little while later, a couple weeks later, it's my birthday. And I work the night shift, and I get a text from this girl. And I'm like, huh, because we actually talked about birthdays. So we both, you know, she said when hers was, I said when mine was. I get a text from her, and she's like, hey, you know, it's so-and-so. What are you up to? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, you know, I'm working night shift. I don't get off till midnight. And she was like, oh, that's cool. I'm pretty bored. You know, I was looking for something to do. Thought maybe you wanted to hang out. And I'm like, well, yeah, it's my birthday, so sure, you know, that would be fun. But like I said, I don't get off till midnight. She shoots me a text and says, wait, who is this? I'm like, it's, you know, the guy you went on that date with on Halloween. And she was like, oh, the screen's broken on my phone, so I don't know who I'm texting. I thought I had a different number. And she's like, oh, how are you? And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I kind of need to get back to work. So that was that. I didn't ever hear from her again, or did I really want to? I mean, let's be honest. But I thought that was funny. I mean, that's what made it the absolute worst date ever. Beyond the date was getting that text. So yeah, share your worst date. I want to hear it. Let me know what you got. Oh, and Flashwing, I want to hear you top that one. So shoot, your turn.